for a talk about a very provocative entry to our main competition, the A competition here at Black Nights Film Festival, the international premiere of A Thought of Ecstasy. We have marvelous guests here for this German-Swiss-US co-production, and I'll start from the very far end of the table. The producer, Torsten Neumann, is with us. Lena Morris and Eva Verne, having very provocative roles in these films, are joining us. And Lena Morris is also a screen star here in Tallinn this time. Very good to have you. And it is my honor and privilege to welcome Deborah, Unger, which you, of course, all know, joining us today from many different films, such as Crash or The Game. And she has always, or worked multiple times also with European directors. So, of course, we would like to know more how this came about to work together with R.P. Kahl, the director, the mastermind of the project, bringing you A Thought of Ecstasy here, a true maverick of German cinema. Thank you for joining us today. The first question, of course, has to go to the director. I think there are crossroads here with these projects of your interest. That is, your films have had erotic themes beforehand. You were always interested in combining it with a kind of philosophical notion. Here you are inspired by Baudrillard, to be specific. And the third one is landscape, is countryside. You were in the US when you first started thinking about the project. It is all shot in LA and around LA. So please tell us where the first inspiration for A Thought of Ecstasy came from.
Ooh, not so easy to answer. First of all, I was 3 months in LA in a fellowship by the Villa Aurora from the German government, and this point changed my whole life as an artist, because when I was in LA and around in California in the Death Valley, in the desert, there was some inspiration came in my mind, and yes, I was influenced at this time by some ideas by Bataille and also Baudrillard. And Baudrillard wrote down that America is not real, it's much more a fiction. And that idea I liked very well, to see America as a fiction, not as a real world. And maybe also our world is not real, is in a way a fiction film or a novel or a fairy tale. That was in the beginning. And first of all, I thought it will be an experimental essay, and I will driving through the streets and through the deserts, have some thoughts. But then I realized, no, I'm much more a filmmaker, and it has to be a feature film. And so Torsten came by, and we wrote together the script, or we thought first about the script and what it could be, and then I started the film. So that's maybe a little bit the story behind.
This is the story of Frank, a German coming to the desert, to LA and the desert around LA for a job, and finding or knowing about a book that seems to be his story, and he's getting lost in his memories of a woman, trying to find her, and on his way to this woman he meets Liz Archer, acted or played by Deborah Unger. So, Deborah, the question to you.
Am I next?
Yes, you are. Yes, hopefully you are.
I didn't like this
hope so.
Damn it. See, Torsten gets the best.
I will have a question for Torsten that's connected to that. But,
yeah, but when it goes down the line.
No, it won't.
Thank you.
It's not that strictly German.
Okay.
But how did you get interested in the project? At which point were you interested in the project to join?
When RP approached me, because Bedways was certainly one of my favorite films of all time, that both Torsten and RP produced together as well. So when RP asked me to participate in this, I said yes, of course, and especially knowing that it would be written with Torsten and RP, who are both well aware of situations that have been going on in Los Angeles, in the States for many years. We've been partners for many years. And so it was wonderful for me to see how expertly and delicately they wove into this cautionary tale, certainly inspired by Bataille, but inspired in times when the furor of the pre-election time of Trump, the horrors of that reality, and importantly, they were well aware of it's subtly planted throughout the hashtag #MeToo issue that has now come to the worldwide awareness. That seed of oppression and the objectification of women and women's desire for revenge and retribution against the masked and faceless men that oppress them and seek to silence them definitely interested me. I thought it was incredibly cleverly done and timely, and indeed, as we can see now, it was even more timely than either of them anticipated.
Yeah, to expand a bit on that, the
Do I
funny
need to
thing.
lean forward because I don't understand this mic?
This should be
Sorry.
should be very much okay like
Okay,
that. I just wanted to ask one more specific thing. As you said, the power relationship that you would normally expect in an explicit film like this are totally twisted around. Liz Archer is basically the character having playing all the puppets. Yeah. So, would you go that far to say this is a feminist film? How would you describe it?
Well, people have different definitions of the word feminist, but it's certainly the women are the empowering force behind this. As I said, there are so many definitions of feminism that this is certainly women seeking to create, seeking retribution for the disparate relationships that go underground, that are subterranean, that happen too often, and women are definitely in charge. I'm still thinking of the word feminism because it's the hashtag #MeToo time right now is so very complex. It's affected a couple of decades of my life, and so perhaps I feel very sensitive with all of these words because, yes, this is definitely a feminist film in so many ways. Importantly, it's unfortunately less a fairy tale than RP portrays because it's, as I said, as a cautionary tale. It was anticipating what was going to come to surface eventually. And it doesn't even go far enough. Some people think, oh, it's a bit controversial. If real life is more controversial than this film will ever touch upon.
Talking about words, this is also a clear noir, you know, and you wrote a novel for that, or a text for that is used in the film, a novel called Desert LA. And so where does these texts come from? You are both from Germany, but these coming from the mouth of Liz Archer, these sounds beautiful. This is really a noir text. So how did you evolve this text that is so crucial towards the film, Torsten, and also RP, please?
It is the fun part of creating the story was knowing the foundation and knowing the background, and then trying to place it, as RP said, in America that is fighting with recognizing its own reality, and of course all the pictures were asking for some noir background. So we would go through many classic films and find moments and situations and atmosphere to adopt for this story, definitely. And then the idea of dealing with a narrator that is an unreliable narrator, and our story is kind of a mindfuck of a mindfuck in that way. So we even have to struggle to find out who is the narrator. So that was a lot of fun dealing with paying homage to certain films to certain genres, and then still reflecting or breaking them. Then we came up with this story, and I kind of like to hear it a lot because with this voice it makes some atmosphere.
I really think that what is so intelligent about the text as well is that RP and Torsten, they as I shared earlier, they've woven in timely political issues, and so subtly, even in terms of a slight reference to, you know, I want to be a movie star. These references to the Harvey Weinstein hashtag #MeToo are very cleverly and subliminally placed. Of course, they couldn't anticipate that everyone would be so cognizant of this underbelly, of this subterranean reality of America and sexual politics, but it's come to life, and knowing that that was a pre-existing truth, I thought it was, the text is not just rich intellectually, it's founded in truisms that are imperative to consider.
You know, I've been working with RP since many years, and we were kind of smiling over the question where we enter too much of a storyline and too much. If we are in danger of entering too much of the mainstream area, and so we are still smiling about this because we know that our worries are not necessary. It's still very experimental and it's very smooth. But defining this plot through the voiceover kind of was actually very enjoyable. And we've been what I like a lot. And maybe we hit another right time also with this. Most of us have seen the Blade Runner, the remake of the Blade Runner, and everyone was kind of happy and excited to see that the blockbuster, the mainstream cinema doesn't need to go always bigger and better and faster, and the plot-driven stories that someone comes and opens up some movie making like in the 70s, where you feel something more than you get everything explained. And the Blade Runner, unfortunately, or for whatever reasons, is not working out. But I feel very happy that we have this film the way it is. It is not guiding the audience into a plot-driven story from plot point A to B. You have to put it together, but I can tell you, if you watch it 3 times, you find the plot. It is there. It's just not there on the nose.
It's a feverish dream at the same time, I would say. Well, we haven't touched one obvious point. It's a very carnal film, like your films were before as well. So the question would go to Lena and Ava. What were the ground rules in working with RP in this endeavor that had to be explicit? I mean, it's it's an obvious thing that you all had to be naked at some point in front of the camera.
Lots of people have to be naked in front of the camera.
Exactly, lots. No, but there are ground rules for this for your work. So please tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah. You want to start?
Well, first of all, I think. For me, as an actress, it was one of the most interesting things to cross some boundaries, also for me. And then before starting shooting, we talked a lot about these subjects, and from the start, it was clear that we would, as private people, would be very safe during shooting, and that was from the start to the end. I enjoyed this very safe and very delicate environment where we could do these very intense scenes. So the perfect environment to shoot exactly those scenes.
I mean, RP is a beast on screen, but in real life, he's a gentleman. He's it's true. He's an absolute gentleman.
No, just in addition to that, I was very proud to be part of this as well. I mean, I haven't had so many on-screen experiences before. I was more on stage and still in drama school when I experienced that. It was for me as well to see my own body as material So I wanted to experience that, and as well to, you know, to work with the kind of idea of this dream and reality situation, because this is something that is very, very often found in heads of everybody, that you feel a little twilight in yourself sometimes. And I think this whole situation with this Me Too thing is that everybody kind of pretends to be very perfect in this world, but in the end, this movie shows very explicit scenes that is kind of, you know, the different side of all this, what's going on. You know, that someone is very open with what actually is going on behind. I mean, you have a show with a family in there, but behind stage, they, you know, mistreating children or mistreating females or even gay guys. I don't know. But we had a very professional work on set. It was very, very professional. So nothing, never felt any weird. So this is really interesting.
RP?
Yeah, I can add that there's no, it's not a big deal. It's no secret behind this, because I asked Ava and Lena as actresses, I was not interested in a personal way or personal relationship, only in a relationship between director and actress. Of course, we have to trust each other, and I have to be how can I explain it? Of course, we have some intimate moments in the scenes, but as characters. And so there is a really big difference between a private moment between two private persons, or a private moment as an actor and an actress, as a character in a scene on set. So that's the
But
secret.
I would never imply that. The
No,
thing
I
is
know it.
the thing is that I have never seen you on screen also as vulnerable, and part of that is also that this is, even if this all plays out in Los Angeles or around Los Angeles, this is a deeply German film, because you used, for example, we don't have the time to talk about the beautiful soundtrack with Monkey Town Records. That is amazing, because Moderat and so many other artists were contributing to this very special project. I would like to concentrate on the other side, a music, part of the score coming from Erzgebirge. And also your figure playing Frank with this German accent, like a foreign element, really in the desert. That's what struck me always very intensely, and what I love so much about it, that it is truly German in that sense. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I grew up in the Erzgebirge. It's in the very south of the East German part in Germany. And in a way, when I was in the desert, in the Death Valley, I had the feeling that there are some moments in the same way, like in the Erzgebirge. It's not so easy to explain why. Maybe because in both areas are minings, and but so in my mind was, okay, I feel a little bit like to stay in the Erzgebirge 40 years before or 35 years before in my childhood, and so I realized I have to bring this music, this traditional music, into the film. And the guy who plays this instrument grew up also in Bärenstein, this little village I came from. And so, of course, there are some little parts in the film where my character is for 1% also me as RP. But the rest of the 99% are fiction, and I'm a character. You can believe it or not. And so it's my contribution of my home to the world cinema.
Well, thank you for combining in this very intimate part of your life into the film of grand landscapes and grand atmospheres. The international premiere of the film will be tonight at 9. Unfortunately, all tickets are sold. As for the second screening, people have to go to Tartu to see it on the third screening, or maybe be lucky and get one tonight by standing there. We'll see to that. Thank you all for joining us here today. Thank you.
Thank you.